There aren't many athletes who can boast a more stellar career than Jon Bones Jones. Since stepping onto the big scene, he has been flawless, save for only one loss in his career, which is highly debatable. Despite winning multiple light heavyweight championship titles and asserting himself as one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, Jones still gets a lot of hate and disrespect from fans and other MMA fighters. But why? The answer has all to do with his number one enemy. Jones was raised as a Christian in Rochester, New York, and just like his brothers, he was fascinated by American football and eyed going pro at some point in his life. Unfortunately, success eluded him early in the sport, and rather than preach the gospel like his father wanted, the young Jon Jones decided to get into wrestling where he excelled. He was a standout performer in high school, dominating from the get-go. He breezed past his high school opponents to win the National Wrestling Championship. His destiny was pointing towards MMA greatness, but he wanted something else, so he instead went to college to pursue a degree in criminal justice. And you guys are going to see the irony soon. However, his love for the high stakes that came with wrestling was not lost, and he only needed a nudge to pursue the legendary status that awaited him. The nudge would come when his girlfriend reported that she was pregnant with his child. This would change everything for Jones, who decided to drop out of college. He had to make money quickly to support his family, so he looked to his natural strength and raw talent in wrestling for a quick buck. It'll come, but even Jones knew he had to get better if he was going to survive as a pro, so he joined the Jackson Wink MMA Academy. There, he learned mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and honed his wrestling background. At 20 years old, Jones was ready to go pro, and he started from the bottom, making his debut in a locally promoted match. With his genetically gifted long limbs, Jones proved too much for his early opponents as he dazzled crowds with spectacular kicks, punches, and wrestling. Standing at 6 feet and 4 inches with a whopping 84.5-inch reach, Jones knocked down opponent after opponent until he earned a spot in the big leagues. Dana White and the UFC offered Jones a contract only 4 months after his professional debut. He had won all 6 fights he had been in prior and impressed White, who believed Jones to be one of the greatest talents he had ever seen. He was right, and Jones would show the world how prepared he was for the UFC debut against Andre Guzmão. Jones had only been informed of the fight 2 weeks before the event. He was a late replacement for Tomas Struwal, but he accepted it anyways. He was going to make a highlight reel with Andre Guzmão's blood on it. Jones wasn't able to drop the more experienced Guzmão, but he made sure to punish him before winning the fight by a unanimous decision. It was a huge victory for Jones, who overpowered his opponent with his impressive size, speed, agility, raw strength, and an unmatched fight IQ. When Jones faced and pummeled Stephan Bonnar and Jake O'Brien, it soon became apparent that this kid was heading straight to the top. He was unstoppable, or so everyone thought. By 2009, Jones had gotten so much hype and respect from fans and colleagues that he was given center stage at a major UFC event. This match would be almost too crucial for Jones, as it'd be one to almost define his entire career and why people don't respect him. Jones was to fight a fellow light heavyweight prospect, Matt Hamill, on a prominent fight card. It wasn't even close, guys. Jones battered Hamill with strikes and used his wrestling prowess to dominate Hamill, even dislocating his shoulder. However, just when everything was pointing to another easy win for Jones, he used an illegal 12-6 elbow, causing the judges to deduct the point from him. Things went from bad to worse when Hamill was unable to continue, mostly because of his dislocated shoulder. This decision forced the referees and judges to review the events of the round via replay, and it was revealed that Jones's 12-6 elbow had further damaged Hamill's already lacerated nose. The previous decision was overturned, and Jones was disqualified, resulting in the first loss of his career. This change was highly controversial and contested, with Dana White claiming that the referee should have ruled a no contest, which would have prevented a loss for Jones. Even Hamill argued that Jones had done nothing wrong and he didn't see himself as the winner. Nevertheless, the ruling stayed. The loss put a blemish on Jones's previously undefeated record and would set a tone for things to come, but more on that later. Jones's next fight came in 2010, and it was a main event match against Brandon Vera, and one that Vera wouldn't forget in a hurry. Jones defeated his opponent in the first round with a technical knockout after landing an elbow strike that cracked Vera's skull in 3 places. Jones went on to defeat Vladimir Matyushenko and hand Ryan Bader the first professional loss of his career. Thanks to his dominating performance over Ryan Bader and a knee injury to Rashad Evans, Jones got a shot at the light heavyweight title. He was going to face Mauricio Shogun Rua as Rashad's replacement. At this time, Jones was only 23 and had only been in the UFC for 3 years. His opponent was 29 and much more experienced than he was, but it didn't matter. On the morning of the fight, while on a run, Jones foiled a robbery by an unlucky thief who happened to run into the man who would become the UFC light heavyweight champion. Jones caught and subdued the criminal until policemen were able to take him into custody. Later that day, Jones showed all his haters that he was the real deal. He beat the living shit out of Rua early in the match with a flying kick before landing a knee in the 3rd round that brought the champion to his knees. Jones was now the light heavyweight champ at only 23 years old. It soon became apparent that the only person who could stop Jones was himself. Jones was too dynamic for his opponents, and he showcased his unwavering commitment to improving his game when he defended his title by becoming the first UFC fighter to submit Quinton Rampage Jackson. Since his victory against Rua, fans had been waiting to see Jones square off against his former teammate Rashad Evans. Evans had missed multiple shots at challenging for the title due to injuries, but by December of 2011, it looked like nothing was going to stop this long-awaited fight from happening. However, Evans hurt his thumb just before the fight, and an informed Jones was matched against the legendary Lyoto Machida. Machida used his distance and counter-attacking to keep Jones at bay in the first round of the fight at UFC 140, but by the second round, Jones's grappling prowess proved too much for Machida. He won at 4 minutes and 26 seconds of the second round via a guillotine choke, which caused Machida to collapse unconscious. The fight shocked the world, and Jones cemented his place in UFC history. He had the respect of other martial artists and the adoration of his fans. His life was like a game story, and young lad with a good reputation rising through the ranks and taking no prisoners. His next fight saw him finally face and win over Rashad Evans via unanimous decision. After his huge win over Evans, Jones became the first MMA fighter to be sponsored by Nike. The Octagon was looking too small a cage for the beast Jon Jones until the unimaginable happened. While driving under the influence one early morning in May of 2012, Jones crashed his Bentley Continental GT into a telephone line. Fortunately, no one was hurt from the incident, but Jones's image had taken a hit. While mixed martial artists are praised and applauded for their ferociousness in the Octagon, no one laughs when a lion goes wild, and Jones was just starting to show his wild side. The light heavyweight champ was given a $1,000 fine, 6 months suspension, and was forced to take extra driving classes. His fans were still reeling from the accident when Jones incurred the wrath of Dana White. After his fight against Evans, Dana informed the public that Jones's next fight would be against Dan Henderson as the main event for UFC 151. However, Dan pulled out of the fight because of a knee injury. Chael Sonnen was quickly introduced as a replacement, but Jones rejected the fight, refusing a match against Sonnen and effectively cancelling UFC 151. It was the first time a UFC fight was cancelled, and you can imagine that fans and other fighters and their CEO weren't pleased. People started looking down on Jones, who argued that Sonnen was no match for him. His next match would be against Vitor Belfort after a rematch against Machida was cancelled. In the match against Belfort, Jones was caught in a deep belly-down armbar which horrifically hyperextended his elbow. In a performance that showcased his toughness and resilience, Jones broke out of the armbar and beat Belfort to defend his title once again. This victory made him level with Chuck Liddell for the most title defenses. Jones eventually fought Chael Sonnen, and true to his words, he rolled past the seasoned veteran. However, his most difficult contest wasn't too far away. In a match that had been hailed as one of the greatest in UFC history, Jon Jones faced Alexander Gustafsson. It was an epic battle, with both men leaving everything in the cage. While Jones won the match, both men suffered so many injuries that had to be taken to the hospital after. Jones confessed that he couldn't even wipe his butt after the match and had his coach do it for him. But that's not important. The win against Gustafsson meant that Jones now had the record for most consecutive light heavyweight defenses. The sky was only the beginning for Jones, but just when it looked like he had to turn a new leaf, something crazy happened. After absolutely mauling Glover Teixeira, Jones passed up an opportunity to fight Alexander Gustafsson again, preferring Daniel Cormier instead. It worked out as Gustafsson suffered a meniscus tear that forced him to stay away from the Octagon. It was settled. Jones would face DC. Both men absolutely hated each other, so there was little surprise when this happened during a promotional event. The pair got into a crazy brawl when Jones pressed his forehead against DC's. Both athletes were punished after the altercation, with Jones bearing the grunt of it. He paid $50,000 in fines and had to undergo 40 hours of community service. DC suffered a lighter sentence, only paying $9,000 in fines and 20 hours of community service. Jones had lost his sponsorship with Nike after this event. The pair finally duked it out on January 3rd of 2015. Again, Jones was victorious, landing 3 takedowns on DC and becoming the first to take down the Olympic wrestler. Jones trash-talked DC even after the match, making it clear that he still had a grudge against the fighter. While some fans are okay with that kind of behavior from an MMA fighter, the situation went from bad to worse for Jones when he failed the drug test before his match against DC and tested positive for cocaine. His bad boy streak didn't end there, guys. On April 27th of 2015, Albuquerque police announced that they were searching for Jon Jones in connection with the hit and run that occurred early in the previous morning. Jones allegedly ran a red light, causing his car to collide with 2 other vehicles. Instead of staying at the scene, Jones fled on foot, leaving behind an injured pregnant woman in one of the other cars. Witnesses claim that Jones returned to the scene, but only to retrieve cash from the vehicle before fleeing once again. Initially, Jones faced questioning for a possible misdemeanor, but the charges escalated to a felony on April 27th for injuring a person and intentionally fleeing the accident scene. Jones made bail of $2,500 and was placed on 18 months probation as long as he remained in contact with his lawyers. Dana White wasn't so forgiving. He stripped Jon Jones of his title, removed him from all the official rankings, and suspended him indefinitely. In March of 2016, while still on probation, Jones got into trouble with the law again after a cop pulled him over for an exhibition driving. Jones was reinstated to the UFC's active roster on October 23rd of 2015. His first match after the suspension was against Ovince St. Preux for the interim light heavyweight title, and he won again by unanimous decision. Winning the fight against St. Preux meant that he had undeniable access to challenge DC for the light heavyweight title, but just 3 days before the fight, disaster struck again. Jones failed another drug test, this time by USADA. While Jones argued that he failed the test because of some sexual enhancement pills he took, his excuse didn't hold up and he was stripped of the interim title and suspended for another year. In July of 2017, Jones was finally able to fight Cormier again, and while he knocked out DC in the 3rd round of the match, he had only praise and respect for DC while pointing out some of his flaws. The speech won the hearts of many fans who were eager to see their hero make a humble and triumphant return. However, any belief they had in him would be crushed when just days after the fight, Jones's test results would reveal that he had been on a steroid called Turinabol. Consequently, Jones would be stripped of his title and suspended a 3rd time. This time, he was suspended for 15 months and his victory over DC was turned into a no contest. Jones would return in December of 2018 and he beat his fiercest rival Alexander Gustafsson by a TKO in the 3rd round of their match for the UFC light heavyweight title. Thankfully, Jones stayed a bit longer this time and fans were delighted to see him defend his title against Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes. By July of the following year, Jones found himself in court again after assaulting a waitress at a New Mexico strip club. He had only a slap on the wrist for the offense and he was given a 90-day deferred sentence during which he had to avoid arrest and consume no alcohol or drugs. Jones was arrested again in March of 2020. Albuquerque police were responding to a call about gunshots when they found an intoxicated Jones in his Jeep. He failed a breathalyzer and police found a firearm in his car and an open container. He was charged with another DUI and negligent use of a firearm. However, the crowning moment came just a day after his induction into the UFC Hall of Fame following his first match against Alexander Gustafsson. Police were called to Caesar's Palace by a security guard after Jones's youngest daughter sought help for a domestic incident involving Jones and his longtime fiancée, Jessie Moses. Jones had assaulted Jessie and the police reported seeing blood on her face. Jones tried to resist arrest and even headbutted the hood of the police car. This was a new low for Jones, and any fans he had left had lost faith in him. Jones posted a bail of $16,000 and was fined $750 for damaging the police car. He was also made to attend anger management classes and the domestic battery charge against him was dropped. After the arrest, Jones was banned from entering Jackson Wink's MMA gym by his long-term coach and friend Mike Winklejohn. He had been training at the gym since 2009, but even his coach had enough of his poor attitude. We won't see Jones compete again until his much-anticipated fight against Cyril Gane. After a dispute with Dana White, Jones decided to move to the heavyweight division. As such, fans were eager to see how well this living legend would perform, and he didn't disappoint. Jones showed his superior grappling once again. He absolutely dominated Gane and forced him into submission via a guillotine choke. There's no doubt that Jones is a world champion every time he steps into the octagon. He has proven over and over that he is a force to be reckoned with within the octagon, but that's where it ends. His demeanor and his history outside the cage have been less than admirable. His character is his greatest enemy, and while he has a stellar career, we can only imagine the heights he could have reached if he had stayed disciplined throughout his career. If you guys think Jones has changed now, you couldn't be more wrong. The mixed martial artist was in trouble again with the law when Krista Martinez, a drug testing agent from the drug-free sport, filed a police report claiming that Jones had assaulted and threatened to kill her when she went to retrieve a urine sample from his home as part of the UFC's anti-doping program. Do you guys think Jones would ever get the respect of fans and other legends of UFC? Share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.